Good day, friends and fans. You're not alone. You know the system is broken. Also, you think you know the system is broken. Welcome to part 3 of the attention economy. What if I told you the system is not broken? Well, it's working exactly as desired. See, the transformation of society began with feminism. It transformed from, I would say, a honest, hard-working society to winner takes all information environment. Now, social media, for now, is the peak of that environment. You are dominated by algorithms because outrage brings attention. Outrage generates engagement. Outrage-driven headlines in a 24-hour news cycle in which you are constantly bombarded with things you have no control over, many of which have no impact on your life whatsoever, and are often there to distract you from the everyday life in which you live. Often seeking distraction, people turn to social media and become addicted to expressing their outrage. Social media is engineered to hijack your attention and keep you emotional because engagement equals money. The longer you are there, the more they can expose you to advertising. They figured out how, even with ad blockers, to get around you. And that is the political advertising messaging, the sale of your data, the clicks that you generate, the tracking of you is how Mark Zuckerberg and many others go from nothing to millionaires, to billionaires overnight. Bill Gates was the youngest and fastest billionaire until I think he was beaten by Zuckerberg. Not by much, but now you look at the vast differences in their fortunes. Zuckerberg can afford to lose $70 billion and not even care, but he has been surpassed. He never became the richest man. He wanted to be, no doubt. But this attention economy does not exist. It does not thrive. It does not work without feminism. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's how the incentive system works. You consider the difference in views between male and female, or between old and young. The truth does not matter to the audience. The truth isn't working because the truth is not the primary concern of everyday people. The truth is often complex, problematic, and is slow to absorb. Slogans. Rapid-fire slogans. The sexiest, most attention-grabbing hee-haw gets the news cycle. They do not promote Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she is right, honest, forthright, and hardworking. They promote him because he gets attention. And all the media only cares about intention. There's no class struggle. There is the struggle between honesty and dishonesty. And the winner is whoever gives you the biggest dopamine hit. Because every little bit of outrage is a dopamine hit. Every little bit of moral superiority, every grandstand is a dopamine hit. And the worst one is the I told you so. Whenever Trump makes a mistake, they are there to pounce. And once you see the Republican pounce, once you see the hen picking, when's the last time the Democrats have ever run on any achievement? And then they look at it. They compare themselves constantly. Oh, I got more degrees than Donald Trump, you know. I went to Harvard, you know. But what have you built? What you're a mayor of a town. How does it look? What's its finances? See, the problem is a turd in a suit that's polished gets more attention than an ugly old man speaking the truth. So Donald Trump has to be the loudest, the most bombastic, and the most outrageous, because that is the audience. Your brain is not wired for the truth. Your brain is wired for confirmation bias. You want to know it's safe to go outside. You want to know that the saber-toothed tiger is not behind that rock. So the media is there to trigger you. And they go with whomever bids them the highest. So the majority of media is going to be triggering either your fear or anger. But yes, as you get older, it wears off. You start to learn that you can't trust the media. You learn that I am not going to engage that thought or twat in Facebook. Fake or exaggerated news exploits your brain. And it does so with such perfection and precision that it has grown in 20 years 1,000 times the wealth of its nearest competitor. There is nothing. Social media, right? Most social media companies, right? If you remember the originals, right? The most outrageous, the most dishonest, the most vile, despicable humans. All claiming to be libertarians. All claiming to care. Now, irony is that Mark Zuckerberg is right. You are not the sum of your words. You will not be remembered for what you said. Over time, you will be remembered for what you built. And he's laughing at you, and you don't even know it, because he's saying, none of you will be remembered, but he will, because he built something. And he's taking one big giant turd on you. Because, like it or not, that scumbag is famous because he did scumbag things and got away with it. Because he was able to buy his freedom in a two-tier system. But this isn't weakness. It's by design. It's human psychology. Modern technology has found a way to exploit you, to control what you see. And every time you break the algorithm, they keep trying to find ways to lure you back in. So they deliberately promote people who fit their idea of a perfect world. The algorithm is not beatable without an external factor. You can break the cycle. Plenty of people have broken the cycle because social media is an addiction. Slop tubers, game shows are nothing but bread and circus. Mr. Beast did not win because he is a smart man or a good man. In fact, he won because he's the most dishonest of all the dishonest men before him. Swami, attractive, and no morals, no remorse, and a repetitive mindset. Little Jimmy goes to his studio, records some videos about pumping water, sits in the sun for half an hour to just get a little bit of sweat to look like he's worked hard. All the winners, most of these winners, are his friends. It's money laundering. People put money in, get money out. There are YouTube channels that offer $10,000 to their audience. No, you're never going to get it. You keep coming back. Plenty of people have. There are plenty of people who keep telling you that Ukraine is winning and destroying Russian tanks every day. But they won't tell you the human cost, the human toll. Let's pick another topic. The European economy. They'll tell you how great it is. Yet all the old businesses are closing. The European economy is dominated in almost every category by a Chinese company. They're being bled dry of their wealth and prosperity. But like good little lemmings, all they care about is their own survival, and they gather around the government as the government says, goodies, goodies, and then tell you how they need more doctors and more everything else, and then they just import them because that's the easiest, shortest path, least amount of investment, and most of the money that would be spent goes to buying votes. Whether you like it or not, this is not weakness, it's human psychology. But you could take practical steps to break the social media addiction. The political cycle requires you to be addicted to outrage, to not think about what you see and hear. Just recently, there was a huge fraud case exposed. Billions. Been going on for years. Set up under Medicare. And Medicaid, and the programs created by Barack Obama. How does the left respond? Oh, you have Obama derangement syndrome. Oh, Obama lives rent-free over here. See, they just take everything we say about them and their Trump derangement and throw it back at us. Now, I've said it in many videos, everything you can do could be just, that's right, could be thrown back at you. Because there are people to whom truth means nothing. They have no conscience. Now, the thing is, you may not believe me, but there's a little thing called remorse. Okay? You make a mistake. Now, I happen to have an overcorrection. When I make mistakes, when something doesn't go right for me, I take it personally. I feel remorse weighing down on me to the point of such guilt and anger and self-pity. And that too becomes an addiction. That too becomes something you need to break. So one, to break addiction, to treat social media like an addiction, because it is. Track how much you use it. Cut it down. Can you cut it down? Now, what you do is, as soon as it makes you emotional, that's when you're full. That's your remorse trigger. You are now remorseful. Remorseful is learning. Set yourself strict rules. You only need 30 minutes of news a day to know and you've got to seek out the news you need, not the news they want you to read. Turn off all notifications. Don't engage anyone who isn't your friend. They're not on your friends list. If you go to a group, never engage the opposition directly. Engage that whom you know and whom you trust. You see a shitpost, leave it alone. No news in bed. The evening news, the morning news. That's all you need. A few minutes each day to know what's up. No news while relaxing in bed. No news during meals. In fact, no TV during meals. And do not spend your time scrolling videos. Read a book instead. Now, detox your weekends. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to cut down the amount of content I create. I'm only going to do a red pill video. I'm going to do my daily Ukraine news, and I'm only going to make a red pill video once or twice a week to give you what you need to know. Because to be honest, I'm going to show you that I'm not starving for attention. And to help teach you not to starve for attention. If there's something that needs to be done, I'll do it. Like this video, all my videos, I believe they need to be done. But now I start to think they're too close together. That people need time to not just view them, but to review them. If you find a video that helps you, view it multiple times. Don't be ashamed to view something multiple times. Don't be ashamed to use the fast forward feature and the pause buttons. Now, sometimes translations do take time. So you watch a video, bookmark it, come back a few times and start to read the translations. Now, they're not always perfect. especially as someone who doesn't always enunciate properly. Try a news detox day, Sunday. You will not watch social media or uh, uh, an empty calorie news service, right? If you can't watch a news service and it is not and it does not contain your area news, don't watch it. It's empty calories. Starve the algorithm. Don't scroll for content. Stop feeling the outrage. Stick to the trusted sources you have. The point of subscribing is to have a list to go to, not rely on your home page and then scroll down. They do that on purpose to turn you into a news junkie. Algorithms reward scrolling because the more you scroll, the more outrageous garbage and slop they throw at you. And there's so many fake videos on YouTube with, oh, you can't believe what Elon's going to do next. I know what he's going to do next. Because SpaceX, he tells you on Twitter, don't. I wish Donald Trump had social media, right? Truth Social. You know what he's going to do. You know what he's thinking. You don't need me or anyone else to tell you what Trump or Elon's thinking. That's why I don't do it. There are so many scammers from India now. It's been swamped. And so many fake engagement accounts now. I don't go with who's popular on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram because I know them fake people put there by the system to lure you in and hook you in. So starve the algorithm. Do not follow accounts for people who trigger strong emotions, for people who advertise you cryptos, investments, and look at them. How often they pull the rug and then they laugh at you. They get away with it time and time again. I'm not going to name names. They're all the top YouTubers. They're all involved in money laundering scams and schemes. Some of them are now openly promoting gambling. There are tools to help you and you don't even know it. Unfollow, mute. You don't need to scroll. The greatest tool is already given to you, the subscribe button. You subscribe to people. You set your homepage to show those you subscribe. If you go to Facebook and you start to see posts that don't scroll posts, right? You set up and you probably only get 10 bookmarks. So you follow 10 or 12, you bookmark 10 or 12 sources of news or entertainment, and you only go to them. If you want, or you go to groups or pages. The tools are there, those extra few clips. But because we're so wired to do the least amount of effort, Facebook sat there and came up with design after design after design. And they pumped out designs. And they copied other people's designs. So that the least amount of clicks gets you to rage bait. Unfriend people with Trump derangement. They have no remorse. They don't learn. They copy. They mimic human emotions. And deep down, anybody who talks about free healthcare is a parasite who wants to... You ask them, who do they want to enslave to pay for that healthcare? What's next? Housing? Because, like feminists, it's all feminine energy, man. It's all I want. Accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. Heck, even Elon's got feminine energy. Everybody has a little bit. It's the yin and the yang. But when it's in balance, you get someone like Elon who can build. But when it's out of balance, yeah, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, the people in big houses with no achievements. Barack Obama, what has he built? Barack Obama Library, of course. $874 million, billion. Let that sink in. $800 billion. Trump Tower costs less than that. And it houses people. Now, change the game. Don't consume less, consume better. You have hobbies. You have interests. The news should be the least amount of your viewing. Now, to consume better, you practice lateral reading. This is a professional technique used by fact checkers and researchers alike. Now, there are very few organizations, and they do sometimes cost money, that give you unbiased news. Ground news, for one. Now, there's a reason why the majority of the world gets its news from Fox. I'm not kidding. The majority of the world gets its news from Fox. When it was CNN, you know why CNN was once the best. And you knew what hour of the day it was. Right? You only got the news. Now it's a commentary channel. And Fox is going that way too. But for now, there are not many sources of news. They're all becoming mud. It's what happens when you invite the world in. You become the entire world. You become mud. You lose your unique identity. So, what is lateral reading? Set a topic you want something to know about. Open a multi-tab browser. So I recommend Firefox. Set 5 tabs, 5 different sources, and you'll see the difference. Those that start to engage your emotions, those who just sit there and deny what's happening, right? You find lots of videos too, and you notice there's holes in the information. Let's take the reflecting pool. You can see the outrage around the reflecting pool. See protests, you see organised vandalism every day. No charges. Why? Because it's a police matter, isn't it? And the DC police, are biased from January 6th. So anything said about the reflecting pool, you can discount. And you'll see it. Once you see enough fake news, you suddenly realise how little news out there really is. You narrow down your sources by reading multiple sources. You always try to find the original source. A lot of people don't know this. Very few news services tell you the original source, but it's often AP or Reuters. Sometimes it's TASS, which is the Russian news agency, but there's a lot who don't, because they're the ones run by the intelligence agencies. The Telegraph, the Sun, they're all controlled by British intelligence. It's an open secret in England that Fleet Street is controlled. So British news, the BBC, the British Brainwashing Corporation. There's no unbiased news in England. There's no news in England. It's all propaganda. It's all outrage. That's why the BBC has fallen so far and so fast and so hard. But yet it maintains its budget even when the majority won't pay for it. So prioritise your primary sources of news from those you've figured out, give you the news you need without the bullshit sprinkled on top. Or at least the headline and the first couple of paragraphs are going to be bullshit. Now, this is something interesting, and it's not for everyone, but the Russian news tells you often the news sources. You want to know what's really going on in the West. Sometimes you read the Russian news and you'll see they'll quote primarily Financial Times, sometimes the New York Times, often giving you stories from behind the firewall. And you can do lateral thinking, right? It's something you want to know, and you see it, and you see in the search results New York Times. Take their headline, go to TASS, just open new tab, type TASS : and the headline. Sometimes you'll find it, not just translated in English perfectly, and you'll even see it credited. And then try, say, the same with Reuters, AP, and Financial Times, or FT. Yeah, FT, I think. Financial Times. Or The Times. And compare it, say, with Chicago Tribune, LA Times, and Washington Post. And you'll actually see how this is an amazing thing. And I know this may scare you, but so far, the Russian official news agency is less propaganda than the New York Times. And it's always been like that. See, this is how fake news and propaganda works. The majority of the time, the news is always there. You just don't look for it. The media relies on you believing the advertising and going to the shortest, quickest, fastest route to find something, and that is the top of the search results. if you've learnt nothing about scams or schemes or deception, how do these scammers and fraudsters keep getting away with everything? Again, it's not a flaw, it's a feature. So you have to retrain your brain to not click the first link, to not go for the CNN, your most trusted sources of news, or CBS. If it's not on CBS, it didn't happen. The slogans. You have to retrain your brain to not believe slogans, to be a skeptic of all things, all times, even me. So I say, try it for yourself. And yes, why didn't I mention the other sources of Russian news? Because yes, the RT, because RT doesn't do it. Sputnik doesn't do it. And most other sources of Russian news are in Russian. And yes, that's where you get your local political Russian propaganda. Right? See, there's always in some country a news source that gives news. Why? Because there are big players who need the news and the accurate news because they can sue if the news is accurate. And you can look, there are companies and countries that are suing China right now for fake news, for fake investment data. Now, they'll probably win and no one will care. But they can't sue them in China because they will get killed. But but a group of New York investors are suing the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in the United States with and they are and right now it looks like China is going to settle the case out of court. You wouldn't get that in a truth-based economy, would you? It would be front page, wouldn't it? You wouldn't get, right? If this was a truth-based economy, you would have expert people exposing China and its fakes every day. Well, you do, but they don't get attention. Now and again, you get a few hits. Now, the best way is to try and find original news sources like AP and Reuters to prioritize non-commentary news. If you're look for things like court documents, raw footage, official government data, because again, other than China, most countries can't produce fake data because their citizens would, sue them. Deliberately read opposition news. Ground yourself. Okay? Do not get comfortable with a single news service because, as we're saying, Fox can transform. When look what happened to CBS where Mike Walsh? Look how Walter Cronkite turned CBS into a joke, and they still celebrate the lying traitor. It's what happens when you allow emotional pull. Video news can be more emotionally manipulative. Prefer reading your news over watching the news. You have to learn to retrain your brain to not be bored, anxious, to not want to belong to a clique of moral superiority. Look at, I could give you a prime example. Threads. Threads is one of the few times I would say, don't read. Okay, most of Threads is full of communists. Most of them aren't even American, telling you all about how bad America is and how you're raping and robbing the world because they're political animals. There are places to avoid. Blue Sky, Threads, CNN, CBS, ABC. But that may not always be the case. So yes, different. And another thing, as soon as you get emotional, regardless of the source, that's when you go back to reading, focus on your hobbies, have real conversations with real people, even if it is in the comment section. Engage your favorite content creators as often as you can. Keep them honest and to know if they're honest. Replace the habit of watching with reading. Build up a tolerance for nuance, a desire for the truth. Because the truth is rarely clean, is not a sound bite. It is a fact that Biden is a sad old lonely man. He's often left to wander about. That is rolled out and lionized and glazed. Even though we cannot remember, and we remember, won't be remembered for anything. Most political achievements are short-lived anyway. What do we remember Reagan for? Berlin Wall, maybe the Iran-Contra affair, but that's the price. You've asked the intelligence agency to bypass Congress and not tell you the details of how and what they did. Yes, of course they're going to do something illegal because they take the shortest path, don't they? Don't know what you expect, but the whole idea was they were meant to take a little bit of every budget they had access to, buy weapons, and under the guise of military aid, deliver it to the Contras. Instead, they took shortcuts. Those who took shortcuts went to jail. But yes, there is such a thing as. But you look at the history of the United States, and almost every president has some sort of black ops or secret programs. Even Carter, although he wanted a clean spying, just observe from space, no human intelligence. So he shut down human intelligence in Iran, Iraq, most of the Soviet Union. He did not want. He wanted the world to be communist. His grandson's head of Mother Jones. He funded communist groups. He protected communist groups. Learn the truth. Because the truth is rarely clean. People are rarely clean. Power. I've studied this. I've written stories about it, yes. But I know how real power games work. It's rarely clean. It's deals made in back rooms. It is delivering wealth and tax dollars. When asked about Operation Paperclip, Richard Helms said he'd do it again in a heartbeat. When asked about justice, he didn't even answer. But deep down, ask yourself this. The people who defected from Nazi Germany to America, yes, they may have been opportunists, but the majority were just scientists. And as for the Nazi war criminals who got away with it, well, the Soviet Union was full of them. And I'm sick of people grandstanding about Nazis because there are bigger monsters out there that they don't and won't acknowledge. Why are they so obsessed with a yes? And I could sit here and explain it to you, but tomorrow you won't remember. So what's the point? You have to find out for yourself the hard way that most of your fellow man are selfish and want what you've got and don't care how they get it. Which is why you should have never allowed migration. Never. When the American government shut down migration, you should have accepted it. That both parties shut down migration in the 60s for a good reason. The fact that you want the third world in your nations just speaks volume that you do not care about humanity, that you just want to drag everything down into the mud, that you want to feel morally superior, that you want everything handed to you on a platter, that you're so full of irrational thinking and immaturity. Those who want the third world in America should be deported to the third world. Remember, Gandhi deported in people who'd been 3 to 6 generations born, never seen England, never came from England, but just because they were white, they were deported. Yeah, he's lionized as a hero of India, an Independence Day. Yet they go around the world taking government, getting into government. India controls Canada right now, and Canada should, by all rights, consider India an invading country, and either mass execute or mass deport them, and nuke India. The world is weak, full of weakness. Asmund Gold said 2% of the population are dragging us all down. Absolutely. I would actually say it's more like 20%. 20 to 30% of the population are dragging us down. Recidivists, junkies, people who contribute nothing to society. I'm not talking about artists, all artists, but I'm talking about that artist who sits on welfare, doesn't do anything, makes a couple of pots and goes to the market on Sunday, sells one pot maybe every few months, and pats himself on the back and says, "Look at me, I'm an artist. I deserve a free ride in life." And amongst that bottom 20%, I'd put most of Hollywood. Degenerates who can't make a movie that makes a profit. There are people who've made, yes, Steven Spielberg has generated billions of dollars, but only for himself and a handful of people. Most investors have lost money on Steven Spielberg, yet he's lionized as a great man. He is not. He's dragged society down. Most of his movies, yeah, people remember a few of his movies, but most of his work is garbage, pure garbage. It's all hit and miss. And mostly other people's work anyway. So you got to ask yourself, what does Hollywood contribute that I can't get from a book? Time, isn't it? Because it takes longer to read a book. So you watch the movie. because you want the dopamine hit. But that movie is costing you money, it's costing you time, and costing your freedom. Because you're supporting a system of oppression and thievery that is dragging society down. Because a movie ticket should only cost you a few bucks. An actor or an actress shouldn't get more than 7 times. They shouldn't get more than 7 times your income, not 240 times your income. I do not see Mark Ruffalo's performance worth millions of dollars. $20 million for Spider-Man? Fuck off. I remember buying Spider-Man comics for $1 and I was already disappointed. When other comics were $1, 20 cents. 20 cents for other comics, but Spider-Man? No, it's $1. So I stopped buying Spider-Man. I stopped buying Batman. I had to stop buying that I love because I couldn't afford it. I used to collect Army Men until some bastard stole all of my Army Men. I had fine books people steal all the time, and it's dragging the economy down. You wonder why I'm a bitter old man. Because insurance doesn't cover, or I can't afford insurance most of the time. You're dragged down every time, disappointed every time. Society doesn't care every time. The large amount of crime in society has to be supported by an even larger amount of society, right? There has to be somewhere these stolen things go. Your stolen cars. Why are the same people constantly out of jail? That's the corruption, systemic corruption. I tried to explain systemic corruption to someone one day. The next day they didn't remember. All they remember is systemic corruption. You agree with me? I tried to correct people on it. I've stopped. They don't understand what systemic corruption is, so they just buy into the lie. But I will explain systemic corruption. It's when the system does not end corruption. It's where the system deliberately have holes that allows for corruption to thrive. It's when the police, courts, and judges, they all know who the criminals are. And when the criminals appear before them, they get lenient light sentences. They're often the first out of prison. They go to prison and they behave themselves. So they get let out early. They don't fight back. They don't speak up. They don't speak back. They always have the social workers. They're the worst. They're amongst the... They always, think they can fix someone or fix... it's because he's poor. I'm poor. You don't help me. You do nothing for me. I'm lucky to get I'm lucky to get $20 a year out of charity if I'm lucky. No one. I offer something in return. I have a Patreon. I offer something back in return. I always try to reciprocate. And what's my reward? Laughed at and passed over every time. No, retrain your brain. Pause yourself every time you get emotional. Learn to be bored. If you're bored, read a book. There's more than enough books out there. Or exercise. We have a real conversation with someone for a change. Build an intolerance for bullshit. Because this world became trash because of feminism. And we are never going to defeat feminism if you keep tolerating trash. Because the majority of feminists are not women. They're men. Next time you see a large feminist rally, you look closer. Look at all the men. Glibbering idiots, each and every one of them. That's right, single mother puppets. They're little boys who have never grown up because they've had a single mother. Become long-term focused. Become the fact checker. Become the news dodger. Right? The headlines don't matter. Don't have an addiction to breaking news. Do not engage TikTok or any short video other than an amusing skit. Now and again, there's some interesting stuff that's in a short, but most of the time, no. TikTok, sound bites. They lack nuance. Yeah, I could break this down into 50 TikTok videos. But then would not be a hypocrite. Be practical. Don't seek perfection. Just your best. You'll slip up. That's fine. Don't punish yourself. I try not to. I rage quit sometimes. I try not to. Now, if you want, ask information. Take notes. Look for better sources of information. You know what's interesting? And I think this is going to work. If Elon could turn, and I think he can, Grok into a news aggregator. I think the majority of people will get their news from trusted sources if Elon can be a trusted source, and get more people get their news by using Grok or other AIs, because AIs can do lateral reading for you. You can ask more and more things of Grok than you can before, and it's only going to get better. In the last, I say, give it another 6 weeks. If AI disappoints you today, wait 6 weeks, because use the attention economy against them. If you're not using AI every day, they want you to be using AI. They want, without use cases, they can't go forward. Now, if you remember anything, remember, read vertically, but also read horizontally. That is, to read multiple sources. Do not avoid the Mary Sue's and all the other commentaries. Most of CNN, don't go off the front page of ABC. But usually, business news, CNN Business, Bloomberg, New York Post Business, New York Times Business, they have to give you the real news because their subscribers and their advertisers will sue the living shit out of them. That's why Jeff Bezos is having so much trouble at the Washington Post, and why they're losing money now, because they're losing subscribers. But you know, the parasites of the world, they don't care. They have no remorse. They think they're perfect. They think they're making the world a perfect place, a better place. They can't be reasoned with. They can't be bargained with. They are garbage tier people. Unfortunately, they know how to parrot, get degrees. That's their survival tactic, is to parrot. Right? Parrot behaviour. They can't think, they can't create, they can't build. That's why they're journalists. They take raw news and turn it into propaganda. And soon they won't be needed. because the more of us who read the raw news or get our news from Grok, we kill the fake news economy, and lots of feminists will lose their jobs. We're seeing this right now in North Korea and in South Korea too. In North Korea, utilitarianism is out the window. North Korea's right now very, very on edge. Because if Kim Il Jong appoints a female leader who believes she's queen, there's going to be hell to pay. The old family would be wiped out. The old guard is getting too old. The young, hungry communist is not interested in utilitarianism. The North Koreans want to oppress women. They do think women belong in the home. They want to get rid of communism, but they want the old Korea back, where men ruled, where life was brutal and hard. They like it that way. They do want to fight each other with swords over little arguments, and they do kill each other regularly. It's not our place to fix their society. It's not South Korea's place. South Korea is willing to let them fight and engage in. They said they won't attack them again. They can only believe the one government to the next with South Korea. And North Korea understands this. It's the same with them. If Kim Il Jong's father had not been so distracted by power, he would have attacked South Korea. But he realised that he had two choices: chase actresses and bang as many as women he wants, or go to war. He chose to bang lots of women. Kim Il Jong the same thing. But his sons, maybe he did bang his sister because his sons aren't seen to be worth a pinch of poop. But his daughter, whom he had with that actress that he executed, and boy, by all accounts, it was not a pleasant execution by any standard of executions. Well, when it comes to brutality, North Korea has taken the cake. And you can believe it's fake news or what. But right now, right, you think Iran's bad. Iran is dying. President Trump is trying to save Iran from dying. Iran is being killed by overpopulation. Its country can't sustain its current population. It has 3 times as many people as the land can bear. See, Iran was being fed by Russia, America, and China in return for oil. But as Venezuela and other countries opened up, Persian Gulf became less and less important to the West. But there are those with deep cultural ties in America who are Iranian, who have urged Donald Trump to one more time give Iran a chance. That's why he hasn't bombed the living shit out of it. See, once you know the nuance behind, and not just the nuance, okay, the morality, the remorse, realize that Jimmy Carter fucked Iran. Funded, helped, gave aid to the freedom fighters. And how many times it's been done without your consent. It's terrible. But I'm telling you right now, break the fake news economy, you defeat feminism. You don't, you won't. It's every individual. It is a rebellion against fake news. Because fake news comes from feminism. It's feminine energy. It employs women, emotional manipulators, male feminists, weak-minded people who should not have important jobs. We should not give importance to actors and actresses. What difference is a $2 movie ticket. You think, as a kid, the movies you see today, are they better? Or maybe better made, more colourful, have more colour to them, but they're not better movies. They're not better stories. They're not worth 25 times what you paid 10 years ago. Your wages did not go up by 25x. Break bad habits and you destroy feminism, because feminism is the source of most of your bad habits. This channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience, so please, empirevalve.myshopify.com, your one-stop shop for enchanting treasures based on my writing. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video. But before you go, like, share and subscribe, and consider supporting the channel if you can on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below. Sorry, in my link tree. You can find it in the description below or in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.